Today is June 10th, 2019, and you're listening to episode 9 of Manchild and the Old Guy. He's the Manchild, a bearded 20-something, and I'm the old guy, a cynical Gen Xer. This is your intergenerational podcast where we discuss pop culture, faith, politics, and whatever we find interesting. Broadcasting from the basement because that is where Mom lets us. I'm the old guy.
And I'm the man-child.
Welcome to our stream of consciousness.
Welcome. If you have not noticed already, the podcast is going to sound a little bit different. That's because we decided to actually turn off the furnace and AC. So it's going to be a little bit quieter than it usually is. It's already eerie now, recording, because it's just quiet. It's never like that. There's always background noise somewhere.
Yeah, and Mom has promised not to flush the toilet.
Yeah, yes she has. And hopefully the dog does not come down the stairs, because that is the one of the most annoying things when the dog's coming down. Remember that one week when the dog was like at your leg and you're trying to get her to go away and you ended up like stomping on her head and she was like crying out in pain as her skull broke?
Stomp on her head.
It sure sounded like it. But so
I just gave her a little nudge with my foot.
A little nudge with my foot in her eye. So we tried to record this episode yesterday, but we were having some technical difficulties.
Not some.
We were having technical difficulties the equipment and with each other.
We're having a lot of technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're just having issues in general. But before we started the podcast, I was going to tell my dad something. I'm going to say it again today. Dad, what do you think it is about you that I'm going to say to you right now? I
have no idea.
Really? You can't guess what you're doing right now that I'm going to tell you to stop and or change.
Are my headphones on back?
Yes, dude, exactly like yesterday when we tried this. And exactly like last week.
But you didn't say anything to me yesterday.
I did this whole thing. I'm like, I'll tell you when we get started. But we never got started because of the issues we were having. There's a right and left side on them, man.
Yeah, but it's on the back.
Yeah, so you just are there. You
are you happy now?
I am proud of you, Dad, that you were able to do that. I didn't think you were able to do it, but you know what? You and your failing eyesight have managed to see the little R and the
I've got the system squared away, so we're not playing like I'm not shooting you in the left or right ear, so it's equal balance for right and left, so it doesn't matter. Thank you for belching, just like you've done every single episode.
Yeah, but you know what? I think there is an audience out there that wants to hear me belch while we do this podcast.
Potentially. Maybe they'll make it into a drinking game, I guess. I don't know.
Ooh. I don't know. Should we advocate for that? Do a drinking game? You can buy mugs from us, Manchild and the Old Guy, mugs for holy water drinking contest.
Something like that, sure.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my thing for today. We're going to jump right into it. Does heaven and hell exist right now, or will it exist after Christ comes back to earth?
Bum, bum, bum.
Dum, dum.
Are you asking me that question, or was it rhetorical?
You are a ordained minister.
Yes.
Correct. Mm-hmm. As his mother. So, the question is, does heaven exist now? Does hell exist now? So, hell, from my knowledge, being a novice Christian myself, is that hell was created as a cage to put Satan in. If I'm just saying, if I remember the way certain things are phrased, it was hell is a way that was to cast Satan to Lucifer himself, and then all sinners would go there as well, and eventually hell itself would go into the lake of fire and cease to exist because hell is not eternity.
And all the minions, if you read Revelation.
Yeah. And then heaven is the way we describe it in Western culture is not, I wouldn't say drastically different, but it's a little bit different than the way Bible interprets heaven. There's paradise, and then there's New Jerusalem. So the way everyone views heaven, what they describe it as, the golden roads and all this kind of stuff, that is the New Jerusalem, when the city comes down to earth, when heaven and earth become one. So does heaven, the way we think about it in Western culture, exist now? Or is that just a thought we've come up with in our general conscience?
Okay, first off, you have to understand that we don't really comprehend what the Bible talks about as heaven and hell.
Right.
So there's a lot of metaphor stuck in there. the simplest way that I explain it to people is hell is complete separation from God.
Right.
So in this temporal time that we live in, we are still under God's grace and mercy. And whether we want to believe in him or not, excuse me, I had jalapenos this afternoon and they're coming back on me. Nice. Whether we want to believe in God or not, or his son Jesus, then the concept of us still being under his grace and mercy are there. It is the reality that whether we want to or not, we exist in a state with God right now. But at the end of time, if we've not made a choice in this lifetime to be with God, then we're actually still making a choice which is against God. So you either make a choice for God or the choice is being made for you to be against God. And when you're against God, then hell is your future. Now, we don't know entirely what hell is. There's a lot of metaphor again in the Bible. And the concept is that whatever hell is that it's complete separation from God.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we ran up there because my dog wouldn't shut up. So I apologize about that. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Bear with me on this. Is that a lot of people presume that purgatory exists.
Wait a second. Presume.
Whatever. Pedestal. What's the difference in the end? You still can't spell Chihuahua, but neither can I. Yeah. Some people think that purgatory exists. While the Bible does not specifically say anything about purgatory the way we understand it, some people have come up with that own thought in their heads that it exists. While I don't think there's a purgatory that everyone just sits in until it's time to go to heaven or we're all coming back to earth.
That's not the concept of purgatory.
Yeah, it is. The purgatory is that you sit and you wait.
No, not entirely. Although it is kind of a holding spot to get to paradise. But if you're in purgatory, you're working out the final stages of your ultimate redemption or salvation. And people in this temporal lifetime can be praying to help you achieve paradise. That's so it's not, you don't go right to purgatory and just sit there twiddling your thumbs for whatever.
That's what the Mormons think. They just pray into heaven and then you're good to go. But is the life we're living right now considered purgatory?
No.
Is it not?
Why
are we not working out our final stages to salvation while we are here? Is this not a waiting period until we go to heaven or hell? Is this just not
keep shotgunning questions and not let me answer them? Absolutely not. When you believe in Jesus Christ as your Savior, you become a citizen of heaven at that point in time. There's no working out your salvation. You're redeemed at that point in time. Well, there's holy. You can grow in holiness and become more like Jesus. However you want to classify that. Different denominations classify it in different ways. But you can grow as a person in your faith and in your walk as Christ. I mean, right when you become a saved person, you're not perfected, but you're going to grow in perfection as you maintain a relationship with Jesus. But it doesn't matter if you get saved at this instant and then you grow in faith. You don't gain in more salvation. There's only one salvation. So Christ's blood redeemed you of your sins. You're no longer accused by the great accuser, who is the devil, and you are redeemed.
Okay, well, how do you lose your green card into heaven then? If because it's very controversial in our line of faith that you can lose your salvation, that you can lose your spot.
In our line of faith, that's controversial. It's controversial in general with different denominations.
That's what I mean. In our denomination of Christianity, it is controversial to the other denominations in general. The idea that you can ask Christ to be your savior from sin, you can be saved, and then you can lose your salvation. Yeah. Some people think, no, but once you're saved, always saved. Whether they put it like that or not.
Or they put it as in that you were predestined to be saved.
Yeah, which is another great question is, how, am I really, are we actually predestined to go to heaven? If God knows everything we're going to do.
No, it's actually the opposite.
We're all predestined to go to hell.
Yes.
And it is our choice to go to heaven.
Yes.
Okay.
God chose you. God wants you to choose him back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is, if you read like Ephesians chapter 1, Paul talks a lot about predestination, but that predestination in there is not about that you're predestined to be saved. It's that God created you to be in a relationship with him, that you're predestined to be in that relationship. But because of man's fall, that flipped, just like it did with everything else when Adam and Eve disobeyed God. So everything flipped at that point in time. The law, which originally was meant to keep people safe, when Adam and Eve sinned, the law flipped. Now all it can do is prove that you sinned. It can't keep you safe anymore. Therefore, a Christ or a Messiah had to come to redeem humankind because the law could no longer save us.
Right. Okay. So
this, what, excuse me, in our tradition, in our denomination, we talk about people in backslidden conditions.
Right.
Which means that they at one point in time were living a Christ-like life, but for whatever reason, chose to be totally disobedient to God. And at some point in that disobedience, they totally stepped away from a relationship with God. God didn't step away from them. They stepped away from him.
So what scripture, where is it that, I mean, in general, you don't need to have a Bible in front of you. You can just kind of, in your head, if you know a Bible story, that's why this stuff happens. What is the dividing line? That idea where, well, no, it is you're predestined to go to heaven. Only this amount of people will go to heaven. This amount of people will do this. Or you're going to heaven, these other people won't, and you're once saved, always saved. Where do those ideas come from into the Bible?
They are in the book of Revelation. There's talked about 144,000 numbers all throughout the scripture. People read into those numbers constantly. So, not knowing, not knowing exactly where you're coming from, people read into the numbers, and the 144,000 for a long time, the Jehovah's Witness, they believe that there was only ever 144,000 that were elect that would make it to heaven. But of course, their numbers that go to church there are a lot bigger than that, so they've altered that kind of theory over time. But I don't know entirely where people get everything they think.
Well, we know the Catholics get the idea of the papacy from the one for, what is it in Mark? That when Jesus takes Peter aside and says, you are the rock I'm going to build my church upon.
Yeah, he's
and then,
considered the first pope.
Yeah. One thing I've always been...
So you didn't let me finish with the backsliding. You want to go on to something else? Or?
Well, I'm just kind of going through this. This is just ideas that I think...
Okay, so let me talk about the whole losing your salvation thing.
Okay.
And this is the way I tend to describe it to people. It's an easy way for them to understand. And if you've ever... Now, you've been on vacation with Mom and I, and one of our favorite places to go is Colorado Springs.
Love it.
We love it there. So, but you grew up in Nebraska, and we did. And so in Nebraska, not much to see.
We got a chimney rock. Okay, we got rocks stacked on rocks by God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but as you're driving through Nebraska, it's pretty flat. You can see pretty far. Once you get into Colorado, eventually the closer you get to Denver and Colorado Springs, you start to see the mountains in the distance. Now, we can compare that with, once you start to see the mountains, that's a point in time where you can come into a relationship with God. If you are the person and the God is the mountain, okay, once you can see the mountain, we can call that in a relationship with God. And as you go towards the mountain or you grow in faith, what happens when you go towards a mountain?
It gets bigger.
Yeah. So you physically are seeing God larger and larger in your life. And eventually you can get to the mountain. But then even when you get to the mountain, you're not at the top of the mountain. Okay? So somewhere in that process, that's your faith walk that you're growing, and the mountain becomes larger and larger and larger. And if you've been to the Rocky Mountains like we have, you can get so close to the mountains that's all you can see. And that's really where God wants us in life, is that we would be so close to him that he is all that we can see. Now, the opposite is true. If we turn our back on the mountain, or we turn our back on God and we start going the opposite way, God's still in our life, but he keeps getting smaller. He is
there until that mountain disappears over the horizon.
You get so far away from him that you can no longer see him, and you're no longer in a relationship with him. And he gets so small that he just disappears from your life. I don't know when that point is for any given person. There's all these concepts of grace and mercy that work all through these kind of situations. So I don't know when that point in time is for any individual person, but I know it happens. And the reason I know it happens, because that's exactly what I went through. Mm-hmm. I was a saved person in a Baptist church when I was young. I got baptized. My family, because of some disagreements my dad had with a pastor, stopped going to church. My brother got into a lot of hinky things, which kind of screwed my mind up. Seeing him go in and out of jail. I had some things going on at school where I couldn't participate in sports anymore, which really messed me up. And going into college and in the Air Force, I just decided to kind of go all my own way. And there is no way in that point in time that I was connected with God. Mm-hmm. But through a course of events, I got back into a right relationship with God. So as far as I traveled away from the mountain, at some point in time, I got turned back around. And once I got turned back around, I took the first step, the mountain was in the distance again. And I was back in that right relationship. And ever since then, I've been growing, or the mountain's been getting larger in my field of vision. And so I think that's all kind of a simplistic version of what happens, so that people can kind of understand it better. But that's exactly how God interacts with us. The more we interact with him, the closer we get to him, the larger he is in our lives. And we can make a choice, though, to make him smaller in our life, and that is exactly against what God wants, and that's called disobedience.
All right. I was trying to explain the concept of grace to my Muslim coworker I have. Mm-hmm. She's very nice. Her mosque actually agreed to let me come when I take my religions class. I have to attend different religious services, so they agreed to let me come as long as I'm respectful. I can just be there. So that's really nice of them. So shout out to you guys. But I was trying to explain the concept of grace, because in Islam there isn't grace.
Yeah, it's black and white.
Yeah, and we were having a really good conversation the other day about. I said, what do you do if you leave the mosque and, you're really in close with Allah, with God, and then you turn the corner, someone cuts you off, someone bumps into you, and you yell a curse or whatever, and you push them. You think and you say something that's a sinful. You turn around and a bus hits you and you die. But you just left mosque. You are probably the closest you've ever been to God in your life at that moment, and you just slipped up for one instance when you get hit. What happens to you? It's like, well, you go to hell.
She doesn't even understand her own religion then.
It is, because what happens is you have two angels that are on your shoulder all the time, and they count up all the good things and all the bad things you do. And if your good things outweigh the bad things, then you can go into heaven. But the problem is grace does not exist, and other sins weigh more than good things. Almost every good thing weighs the same. But there are sins that weigh as much as 51 good things. Or the one sin weighs as much as 50 good things. And she just couldn't understand that there was this idea that you can believe in God and be as close as you can and still make a mistake. But when you die, God has grace more than what we can ever imagine, that you'll still be saved. As long as you haven't turned your back on that mountain, you're still pursuing that mountain to get up there, but for whatever reason, you're just kind of...
Yeah, you made a mistake, whatever it is, and shouldn't say whatever. I mean, and this is where grace comes in, because you could be utterly disobedient in such a way that you get yourself cut off from God right away. But I think the old example of you're driving home, even from church, somebody cuts you off on the interstate, and you yell at them, and they don't even know you're yelling at them, but you know that you yelled at them, and you're not in a right state of mind. That doesn't condemn you to hell. Might, I don't know. That's where grace comes in,
right?
So I don't, and God works on us all in different ways and where we are in our faith walk. I always use the example of a commissioner in the Salvation Army once spoke about a retired major that was in her 80s. Mm-hmm. And one Sunday, she went to the altar and was praying real hard, and the commissioner went down to pray with her and asked kind of what she was praying about, if he could pray with her. And she explained her situation was that she had thrown garbage in her neighbor's garbage can that was out on the curb. And he's just blown away by that. The issue is that her neighbor had done something, I don't quite remember what it was, but it was something that aggravated the retired major. And to get back at her, she took some garbage and threw it in her garbage can.
Okay, that's like a really tame thing from like what, and right. That's what it is. She's really close with God to the point where she has great perception of things that she shouldn't do in her state of mind.
In her inmost being, she realized she was doing that out of spite, out of bitterness, and all those kind of things, and she wanted to get back into a right position with God. You and I, whatever.
I do that walking down the street. I'll go get the coffee at the coffee shop, and I'll walk home, and then someone will just have the trash can open on the curb, and if I'm done with my coffee,
but it is an example of somebody who's grown so close to the mountain of God that they're very sensitive to how they're interacting with others. And so something that she might do might sinfully might be more drastic in her spiritual walk than you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a personal relationship, and that's what I try and explain to a lot of people. Was, when you first come into the faith with God, accept Christ as your Savior, you're still going to be doing a whole lot of things that you shouldn't. But God works on you, I think, one at a time. Where eventually you get to the point where, like,
cleanse us from all our sins at one time, I don't think we could handle it.
No, but that's what it is. If you think drinking's like you're an alcoholic and you're drinking, you smoke too much, you're doing drugs, whatever. You're doing a whole bunch of stuff you shouldn't be doing, watching porn, cheating on your girlfriend. Slowly but surely, as you become a Christian, you're going to get to this point where you're like, I shouldn't do this. This is wrong. And in your inmost being, which like in Hebrew is like your colon. So your colon has this feeling where this is wrong and I need to stop doing it. And you don't know how to describe that. It's God working in your life to that point where He's giving you this moral standard that is now being set into the very essence of who you are. So even if you forget the 10 Commandments, when you walk into your daily life, you have that inclination that this is wrong. And I think that's...
But the great thing about, you're just going back to you talking about your Muslim friend, Muslims have to constantly be thinking, am I doing enough good? It's a very legalistic thing. Mm-hmm. Christians don't have to think that way. They're already created anew when they come into a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so Paul wrote that in 2 Corinthians. If anyone is alive in Christ, the old is gone, the new has come. And so we're already created anew, and we have a new starting point to go from. And there's no more legalistic per se that says you can't do this or you can't do that, or this is better. Do this good because it weighs 50 times better than that good. Mm-hmm. There's none of that. It's love your neighbor, love as you would love yourself, and love the Lord your God. You do those two things, then you're maintaining your relationship with Jesus, and that maintains your eternity of being in a relationship with Him outside of time. Whatever that looks like. whatever that looks like. Excuse my coughing. Those jalapenos are tearing
Gotta
me
quit
up.
smoking, man.
It's the jalapenos. I knew better. I knew we were recording.
But you did it anyways.
Yes, I did.
It's okay. I knew I was going to belch, but I did anyways.
Yeah, but you wanted to.
Yeah, but you know what? That is something like that. Yeah, but yeah, I do it for, it's an experiment. So that was our holiness tip for the day. Just something to discuss. I don't know. I thought it was a decent thing just to talk about. Throw God in there once in a while. Here's a real question, though. Let's say you can travel back in time as far back as you want. Mm-hmm. You have a machine. You can only travel 2 times. Once back and once forward. Now, you can only travel back, you can travel back as far as you want the first time, but the second time, when you travel back forward through time, you can only travel forward as far as you went back. So, if it is 2010, and you go back 10 years, the next time you use that machine, you can only go forward 10 years. Now, you can wait until...
That would mean you go back to the point you started at.
Technically. Now, if you went back to 1950 from the year 2000, and then you lived 10 years there, and then you travel back to the forward, you'd arrive in 2010. There'd be an entire 10-year gap of when you left where you just disappeared, and you lived in the 1950s, and then you're back in the 2010s. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Can I get the sports almanac?
I mean, sure.
Take with me?
What I'm saying, though, is like, if you... Depending on how far back you travel, it's going to be a drastic difference when you come back.
Okay.
So where would you go? How long would you go? How far back and how long would you stay there? Because you can't just go back there for 10 years and then come back exactly to this moment and no one knew. You're gone. While you're gone for those 10 years or something here, and then you show up 10 years later. Everyone doesn't know what happened.
Yeah, but you don't have to show up 10 years later. You could show back up at the instant.
No.
You said the limit was...
The limit is that it's the year 2000, right? Hypothetical, solid numbers. You can go back as far as you want back in time. Mm-hmm. You can use the machine twice, once to go back, once to go forward. However far back you go is how far forward you can go. So if you go back
I thought you meant that was a limit.
Yeah, so if you go back 15 years and you wait a couple years, you can only go forward 15 years.
So I couldn't go...
You can go back to the year 2000.
I have to go forward as many years as I went back.
Yeah, you can't jump around. So if you went back from,
okay, so I would go back to Adam and Eve and whack them upside the head and then go...
You would cease to exist.
Why?
Because none of the chain of events that happened would have occurred. None of the chain of events would have happened.
Are you saying the 2 naked people wouldn't get together?
I'm not saying they wouldn't get together. I'm saying that the reason everything's going on, the way certain gene pools exist, is because Adam and Eve sinned. The reason a lot of the stuff you are and I am...
You don't think that their offspring would have sinned?
I don't know. I'm saying that they only sinned because they ate of the fruit. But if they never ate of the tree of knowledge, then they taught a whole of good and evil, whatever knowledge of the tree. Yeah, knowledge of whatever. They ate the dumb fruit. They ate the dumb fruit, made them sin. Boo boo, they're bad. And the serpent, whatever, spoke to them or some crap. There's only 2 animals in the Bible that speak to them. It's a serpent and a donkey. Both of them suck as animals. So then you got
technically the cherubim are animals,
no, they're spiritual. They're not animals. They have animal-like characteristics. They're not animals. That's the big difference. All right. Anyways, so they don't sin. Their kids don't sin because Adam and Eve would have kept them away from that tree. That tree is the thing that makes you sin because once you eat of it. No, that's what I'm saying. Adam and Eve can't sin.
The tree did not make them
sin. But they couldn't let evil enter. Sin is when you let evil enter their lives. They were perfect. They could not let... No.
Sin is what separates you from God.
Right, but they don't know anything about that. Who told you were naked? They didn't know that until they ate the fruit. So if the fruit was not eaten, none of them would have sinned. You would not exist. I would not exist. We would cease to exist in our temporal plane.
According to Jesus... They sinned before they ate the fruit.
They doubted God.
They they chose somewhere before they ate the fruit. They chose in their inmost being to eat the fruit.
Right.
So it was long before the fruit is not the embodiment of their sin. The embodiment of their sin is when they chose to disobey God.
But then what was the difference? Why even have the tree then? Because obviously all the stuff we experience today is because of that stupid chick biting an apple and then like, yo, hubby, come here. And he looked over and he was being stupid and took another bite of it.
Technically, if you want to be technical, it was Adam that allowed his wife to commit that atrocity. So he should have stopped her because the Bible narrative says that
strong, independent woman.
She was right next to her husband when she grabbed the fruit.
This is what I don't get. Okay, the Bible said she was right next to her husband. You know how many times there are a lot of people like right next to me and I have no idea what they're doing? They could be farming. They could be just picking things around the tree. And then she just leans over and is like, come and get some of this, Eve. And then she takes a bite of it and is like, oh, honey, take a bite. What's this? And then she started taking a bite. She's fine. So he's like,
you don't think that
right.
The dude walking around is going to notice his wife talking to a snake?
I'm saying it says he's nearby. It doesn't say he was right next to her. It doesn't say he was 50 feet from her. That's what I'm saying, is that there's a lot of discrepancy. Okay? Because that's just what it is. It does not clearly say what happened. So we cannot say that Adam, it is exactly this way, because we don't know. We just know that some spiritual being, the serpent, spoke to Eve, and Eve turned around. Adam saw her, and they're in eyesight of whatever it was, and then he decided along with her to take a bite of that. That is what we know. Those are the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are no evidence of anything else, so we cannot jump to anything else. Because the way the Torah is written...
What do you mean, jump to something else?
We can't jump to conclusions. We can't jump to like, well, then this happened, so in that meantime, this and this happened. We don't know. Because the way the Torah is written is very mysterious. It leaves it just like point by point by point. It doesn't leave room for wandering. It doesn't beat around the book. I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes. And it's really confusing about the way it's written. And that's the point. Because it's written that way, we can't infer certain things about the book because they just aren't there. There's nothing to support that argument. Just like there's people that think, well, there's a third person. There was another woman. And I'm like, where do you get that? Where do you get that?
Yeah, that's from Apocrypha. There's other books about Adam and Eve, but they're written kind of as novellas.
Yeah.
So they're
not written down as a truthful thing. They're written down as a novel. They're written down as a story. You know, what's that? Left Behind. That's a great one. It's not actually biblical, but it's just a story about it. There are lots of...
There's elements that are biblical.
Yeah, well, there's
in general, it's not a...
It's just different. But anyways, with all of this, you would not exist if it didn't bite the apple, because that's set in motion billions of trillions of Googleplex things that would not... You can say, like, definitively that led to this, and this.
But there's all kinds of stuff that led to this, and this. I mean,
right, but it's mainly because it is Cain's bloodline that is what filled the earth. Because, woohoo, Abel's dead. So Cain's bloodline fills the earth. It discusses that, like, his descendants are the ones that sin and stuff. And then Noah is the one that has to flood the earth. We never had to flood the earth.
Cain, there had to be other people because...
Yes, there were other people, but it was Cain's bloodline.
I understand, but Cain, after he had killed Abel, was marked as God marked him, and he went wandering the planet and found other people. So, one of the misnomers in Christendom is that the first two kids were Cain and Abel. And nowhere does the Bible say that. It only lists two of their kids right in that section of
Eve
Scripture.
was a baby factory. That's all it was.
Well, she probably was. And they had many other kids before Cain and Abel. It was Cain and Abel, though, that their point in history was written down to identify people who would worship God in a true spirit and those who wouldn't. So obviously, Adam and Eve had other kids. The Bible never says that Abel and Cain were the first two kids. So there's a lot of things that people read into the Bible that really are not there. But I would still go back in time to when God created humanity, because part of the reason to do that is because I really feel that Adam and Eve, when they would go into the garden, that there was a temporal barrier there, because the same tree that is Genesis is also in Revelation. The new heaven and the new earth has the same tree. So that garden where God walked and they walked with him, I don't think was in temporal.
No, it was outside of everything. It's a separate entity of everything. So it was on a mountaintop, and it was taken away eventually. It was gone from Earth.
I don't think it was gone from Earth. I think that there was just a portal. A Stargate, if you will.
No, there wasn't a portal. It was, here's the garden, and it was placed onto like a mountain. And then, as soon as everything's done, God's just like, you're kicked out of here. And he put a guard there, and then it was taken.
The way the Bible...
Man, I've been listening and reading a lot of stuff by doctors that are, Christian doctors, and that's what they think.
I don't care.
What did I just do with my...
There. No, I really think that there was a portal that Adam and Eve were walking from time to eternity, going into the Garden of Eden. And when they were kicked out of the garden, they were kicked out of a specific place through the portal. And then God put the angel with the flaming sword in front of it so they could not re-enter. So there was a portal there. And then that portal closed.
I think portal's the wrong word, because it insinuates that there's just this hole, this kind of hole sitting there, and there's just an angel, boom, right there. I think it's literally like there was like a garden.
Then how do you explain things like where Stephen's getting stoned in the New Testament, and there's a section of the sky that opens up so he can see into eternity? How do you explain that? Is that a portal?
I don't think portal's the right word. But you're taking one example in the other part of the Bible and trying to relate that to the beginning where there was nothing. I mean, I think it's different, because at that point you don't have to have a portal, because you just had this garden on this mountaintop, and then it's gone. It's just a mountain now. There's nothing left.
Well, then what happened to the garden? The Garden of
God
Eden,
took the garden up. So look,
Garden of Eden's still there.
I know the garden still exists.
So what do you?
But it is not in. Look, our bubble is our reality, our universe. Then there's another bubble that is hell, another bubble that is heaven. There's another bubble or whatever that is like the Garden of Eden. And this is where God exists outside of here. This is where all the spiritual angelic creatures and everything that exists, Elohim or whatever. And then the garden was taken up out of our bubble. It still exists, but it is not in our reality anymore. God took that out of there, and then we were left here.
So you're saying he put it in temporal time and then took it back out?
No, the garden existed in and of itself. Here it is. It is not affected.
Why are you yelling at me?
I am not yelling. It is not affected by anything that man can do or create or make.
So it's still on Earth someplace?
No, God just took it. It's no longer there.
What?
Look, if God can light a freaking bush on fire and not burn it, he can part a Red Sea, he can create nothing out of nothing, and then create something where there never was anything, and that was confusing, but if he can do all that, he can make a garden appear and then disappear.
But the garden exists today.
Yes! Christ exists today. Is he on earth in physical form? No. So, the garden still exists. It does.
Well, then where
but
is it?
It is in God. It is with God. The garden is with God.
How is what you're saying so different from what I said?
I'm just saying there wasn't some freaking SG-1 Stargate that opened up with people with worms in their stomach popping out like, my name is Teal'c. Or, it's not Andromeda or we're going into slip space, guys. Come on, Harper. They're not doing any of that kind of crap. It's just, it exists and it doesn't. God can do anything. He can defy the laws of physics if he wants to. You know why? Because he wrote them.
He does. Well, I don't think he defies the laws of physics.
Then how? Okay, you cannot say... I once believed you, but I think it's total bullcrap now. He cannot defy the rules that he made for himself. Because he does it all the time. He burned a bush without it burning.
Yes, but you can do that.
You are burning energy. That is taking... Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred and moved. If you are burning a bush, you are creating new energy from some old energy.
So
it's moving energy.
You don't think the energy of God the Holy Spirit, who came down like tongues of flames at Pentecost, couldn't have existed in that bush and seen by Moses as a fire and not consume the bush? You don't think that that's possible?
Sure, I guess, but it doesn't say. It doesn't say it came down. It's not talking about it came down. It's saying this freaking bush was on fire. It's not saying anything metaphorical. It's just saying the bush was on fire. The Spirit of God probably was in it, but the bush was on fire. It was burning. But then, as soon as the fire was gone, it was just a bush. And are you saying it was just a vision?
When the Holy Spirit left the bush was left behind.
So it didn't burn then. The bush wasn't on fire. It was just all part of
it was the Holy Spirit burning in the bush.
Why be in the bush then? The purpose of that whole thing is to show how mighty God is, because he's in a bush without it burning and it's on fire.
And?
Look, so God does not
realize that things burn at different temperatures.
Oh my gosh, yes, but a flame... It's okay. A bush is on fire. You know what? If you light a fire, a bush is going to catch fire. It doesn't matter if it's a low flame, high flame, high heat, low heat.
No, if I pour alcohol, like rubbing alcohol, all over wood and light it on fire, the alcohol is going to burn up and the wood's not going to be touched.
Because the fuel's going to burn out before you can get the wood to the temperature to the point where it's going to burn. Right.
So
so what? The God didn't light the bush on fire. God is so mighty. Okay, he can do all this kind of stuff. He can light a bush on fire and not burn it. He doesn't have to obey the laws of physics. He makes a lot of things work on the laws of physics because he defined them. He created them because he deemed that would work the greatest in our reality. He does not exist in our reality. He goes around or whatever. I'm saying he does not he's not held by the laws of our universe.
No, he created them.
Right. So he can light a bush on fire and not burn it, but it is still burning. But he doesn't have to obey the laws. He can do whatever.
All I'm saying is if you study quantum mechanics, a bush can be on fire and not be consumed.
This stuff is total freaking theoretical. Right? And God is not theoretical. God is God. God is almighty. You cannot define God. It says in the Bible, you cannot define God.
God is love. It says it right in the Bible.
Yes, God is love, but you cannot define God that way. You cannot define God as he's a quantum mechanical. He is not quantitative. He is qualitative data.
He created quantum mechanics.
I created a car. I created Tesla, Dad. I created Tesla. Now, I can only drive around in Teslas.
You're yelling at me.
I am not. Look, because you're wrong. You're so wrong.
I am not.
I am Elon Musk. I created Tesla. I can only drive electric cars. I can only drive a freaking Tesla because I created it. So I can only drive an electric car.
Well, who says we're the only creation?
Well, the Bible doesn't discuss anything else. Why wouldn't they? If we would have the ability to travel to other worlds, why wouldn't we have known by now that God created other things? I think we are the only things in this universe. We are the most important things in this universe. And that's it.
Okay.
I think the rest of the universe is just there. I don't actually think we're truly going to go colonize any other planet. I don't think it's actually going to happen. I think we'll probably have a couple people on the moon or something, but whatever, I think you need to be on Earth.
Well, if they can ever discover how to travel long distances without time dilation and things like that, then it might be possible someday. But until we get some kind of technology to do that, or a Stargate, probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah.
All I'm saying is,
You're wrong.
No, everything I read in the Bible about how God interacts with us on this planet is not outside the realm of possibilities when you look at physics and quantum mechanics.
Yeah, you can explain a lot of things. But the problem is a lot of these scientific things that we look at and we hold it as a standard to is theoretical. It's to a point where you cannot, because you can only go so far before you get to this God particle part, where you cannot.
But long
it's not
before
measurable.
then, they've proven that if you have a proton over here, it can zap out of existence and appear over here. Well, what if Jesus, after he was resurrected, he has the ability now to make every trillion protons in his body zap and make him appear over here or float up in the air. That is not outside the realm of possibility in quantum mechanics. Am I hurting your head?
No, it's just so dumb. All of this is so dumb. I think quantum mechanics, I think we take science to a point where, like, it's really theoretical, it's cool, but we leave out God to that point where
I think science is supposed to reveal God and supposed to reveal how omnipotent and how great he is. And I think,
I agree. I think
it does that all the time.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think God is confined to our understanding of physics.
No, that is not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is...
You're saying he operates within the laws he created. You're saying God is confined to our physics.
I am not saying he's confined. I'm saying when he interacts with us... He created
that's different. That's different. When he interacts with us,
you're the one that keeps saying confined or limited or
because you're saying he works within the laws that he created.
Yeah,
but okay,
then
make a mission statement right now. Make some kind of statement that is your opinion on fact and fiction of this. Does God? When you're saying this is your definitive statement that when God interacts with human beings, he interacts with us through the means of the rules that he has established for our universe, but he does not have to obey those laws. That is how he chooses to interact with us.
Yeah, that's what you just said.
That is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Whatever.
But you don't agree with it.
No, it's not that I don't agree. I think there's certain things we can't understand. When you're talking about protons, neutrons, what is it?
Electrons.
No, what is it? Neutrons?
Neutrinos?
Neutrinos. Those are the ones that teleport, not the protons.
No, neutrinos, the way they actually travel slightly faster than the speed of light, so they technically go back in time.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so I don't know, but that was it. Just I think there's certain things that makes sense. Neutrinos, whatever, makes sense. But there's a lot of stuff we just can't explain.
No,
I think it's always going to be like that. I think God will never allow us to be able to reveal anything about who he is. I mean, heck, God could just... I don't think we will be able to ever truly reveal everything that God is.
Oh, no, not till we come into his presence.
Right, God could be an alien.
But we do know that there are certain qualities of God that we can discover and know now.
Is God an alien?
No.
How do you know? Or could we be a creation
from... If he was an alien, God would have described himself that way. And that is not how he described himself.
Well, he has described himself. What happens if he is a race of other gods and we're just one creation? What if God is Mormon? The Mormon faith, when you die, you come back and then you are a celestial being and you have a planet.
There's plenty of evidence from the Bible that God is not an alien.
But is God Mormon?
No.
Is God black?
I have no idea. He was probably brown. I mean, he walked at least Jesus was probably brown. God, who knows?
And he probably had dreadlocks.
Potentially, I don't know. And he probably sat around with 12 guys telling fart jokes around a campfire.
Yeah.
Because that's what guys do.
I really wish I liked fish the way Jesus did. I don't know. It doesn't say Jesus liked fish, but they all ate it. Well,
because they were all fishermen.
Yeah, but it's just like, I just can't do fish. There's something about it, like going down, it's sitting in my stomach, everything about fish. There's something, unless it's fried. I know that sounds dumb, but like, unless it's fried or it's shrimp, I just can't get really any of it down. But I don't know if that's because of the way I was raised beef. We're from the Midwest. Like, beef is...
Beef, it's what's for dinner.
Yeah, beef and poultry, that's about it. And then, I guess they had chickens then. So God could have had some chicken. But again, I don't know. There's some weird
You've got a lot of stuff rolling around in your melon.
There's a lot of stuff going around because no one else will talk to me about it. All my friends that are religious don't talk to me. So, I mean, are they really friends? The only person religious I can talk to is my girlfriend. Hi, girl child. Miss you. You'll be up here in 15 days. So that'll be fun.
There you go.
Yeah, you just hit it.
And with that, we want to acknowledge everybody who's listening to us right now. We're very thankful for you listening to us, and we appreciate everyone who listens. And that was kind of redundant, but we do subscribe to the value for value model for funding the podcast, and we have promised by episode 10 that we'd have everything up and running. So
Father's Day.
Yeah, we hope that you're finding value and entertainment, and maybe we're challenging your thinking a little bit in how you're thinking about things, or at least spurring some conversation.
How you thinking about things? Anyway, but yeah, if you really want to, you can come visit our website. That's www.bloodpumpmedia.com. That's bloodpumpmedia.com. Or, you can try and email us through manchild@post.com or oldguy@post.com, or you can PayPal us, or, just cross the streams of consciousness. Do something. We want our listeners to interact with each other on Facebook or Gab, whenever that's going to be established. You can also listen and share the Twinkie through YouTube.
Cross the streams.
Well, we do want you to cross the streams.
I love this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it. Let's do it.
Great idea. Let's do it. We would love to hear from you guys, suggestions or comments, so you could help. It's a big Twinkie. You can help produce the show. If you like what you hear and you are finding value and entertainment in what we are doing, then by all means tell others about the Twinkie, which is our formula.
There you go. And so now that we're off to less serious subjects, Manchild.
Man arrested for domestic ketchup battery.
Well, hold on. These are 3 more things of don't be that guy.
All from Florida.
Not all from Florida, but
Ooh.
A couple of them are. This one is definitely a Florida guy. And he's facing domestic battery charges after covering his sleeping girlfriend in ketchup.
Does that really qualify as battery?
That's what spiked my interest in what this guy is doing, because I don't consider being doused in ketchup battery, but I guess maybe it's all perception. But they've both been arrested for committing battery against each other, and they have charges in separate cases, and they eventually they all get dropped by prosecutors. The woman was busted after allegedly sticking this guy with something while they were arguing the last time they got
with something. Are you censoring yourself, or what's?
Well, I should say striking. I shouldn't say sticking.
Okay, so she hit the dude with something.
Yeah, and they're crazy. The cop said the couple took turns writing on their bed and carving their names into the bed before all this happened. So they're like...
Are they on bath salts?
I don't know. They're just like crazy. But don't be... Look, no matter how bad your girlfriend is to you, don't douse her in ketchup.
Yeah, you know what? I'll try not to. But with all these batteries and charges, I think they should work for Tesla. Because the charging batteries. The dumb one, yeah.
So the next one is another Florida guy, and you can read the headline.
Florida man charged with manslaughter for shooting woman during foreplay with gun, police say.
Yeah. So they don't exactly say what they were doing with the gun, But the woman was in her 20s, and he shot her during some kind of sex act, engaging in an act of foreplay involving his registered handgun somewhere around Tampa. The woman ended up being shot in the upper body, and she was rushed to the hospital, and she died. And then they brought him in on manslaughter charges.
I know everyone's into this weird choking stuff for like foreplay these days, because that's what all the hip kids are talking about. But just don't do it with guns. You know, if that's your thing, just stop. Just stop there. Get an airsoft gun. Why use a real gun? I mean, is it that thrill of just almost dying?
Right. Why do we need a gun in foreplay at all?
I mean, if you want someone to say something to you that just like is scary, just tell them your credit score, okay? You know, tell them how much student loan debt you have. Don't put a gun to them.
Well, and who knows what... Maybe
Where's that gun been, really?
Yeah, don't go there.
Wherever those bullets been.
Yeah, and our last one here, this goes with foreplay again. There's a ball-gagged man says he couldn't call for help as Grindr hookup robbed him. So this guy...
Here's your lesson today, kids. Don't be gay.
This Greenwich Village man was allegedly robbed by a date he met on Grindr. He told the cops he couldn't scream for help because he had a jock strap and a ball gag in his mouth. And so police responded to this call of a home invasion robbery at 3 a.m. on a Saturday in New York. The man told police he had met his date in a section of the app called whatever this is. I don't even want to say it on our podcast. And it's some kind of weird sex thing. But they got into an argument over the small size of the perp's package, leading him to choke the victim and demand cash. And the victim told cops he thought he was part of the fantasy until the date allegedly dragged him into a closet and took $3,000 from him. So,
where? Okay, let me just put it like this: who keeps $3,000 on him?
Was
this really a date, or was this like this was an escort?
No, they met on Grindr in this special section of the app where people do specific.
The entire app is that, man. Come on, it's a gay app. You know, it's gonna be full of really weird stuff. Yeah. I mean, people think Tinder's bad. Get on Grindr. I'm sure it's loaded, chock full of just
weird
burn your eyes out weird stuff going on, just like Tumblr.
Yeah, I don't go on those kind of apps, so I don't know what's going on them. I do know Grindr is for people of that like that are homosexual or gay or whatever, whatever the moniker is now. But part of this is don't be that guy. Don't get yourself into a position where you're all tied up and start complaining about your partner's package size. It can only end in ruin.
Yeah, and that's for you too, ladies. Don't complain about your partner's package size, because he might be packing something a little bit bigger in the holster.
Could go back to the first story, and he might actually be...
If you don't like this size, I got something bigger. Oh, you like that? Like that? Bang!
Right.
Whoops.
So, our next story is out of Sacramento, California.
Oh, what?
And there's people in this neighborhood that keep finding cats that are mutilated. Now, these aren't just mutilated cats.
Sliced in half and decapitated.
They're sliced in half.
I almost said decaffeinated.
Decaffeinated. Well, they might be.
Did I just say decapitated? I didn't even say decapitated.
Yeah. But
decaffeinated cats.
She found this, one of the ladies there named Nancy Olson. She found her beloved family cat was found on a nearby school's front lawn, cut in half. She's convinced it isn't a coyote or other wild animals based on how the animal's cut. It's really hard to wrap your head around seeing your animal chopped in half, and we don't know where the other half of the body is, she says.
So what I'm curious is it cut laterally or like is it from nose to butthole cut, or is it straight through the abdomen?
Sometimes it's like right in half, and sometimes it's their head. And then here's one where one of the people in the neighborhood said, I came across part of a cat part of a head of a cat, the face, and it was on the road. And what they're saying is it looks like somebody with a machete getting these cats. A couple of months before that, I saw a severed cat, just the bottom half of the cat, and it looks like it was a clean cut.
Yeah, man, you got a future serial killer. This is one in Florida?
Yeah, this is a sociopath.
This is Sacramento, California. Yeah,
right.
Look, you got the three that we talked about before, the McDonald triad. You've got bedwetting, arson, and animal mutilation.
Yeah.
So whoever this kid is, or it's an adult, whatever it is, if this keeps going and they report on it like they are, you're going to have a serial killer in Sacramento pretty soon.
Yeah, this is... I mean, all you have to do is watch Netflix.
And you'll figure out how to do it pretty
this
well.
out, that everybody who ends up being a serial killer has mutilated animals, been a bedwetter, and have all kinds of issues. I mean, it's just evident. Now, this is one, because I know you're a Trump supporter.
MAGA.
There you go. And
this is MAGA country.
Well, there's
We're just as small.
This interesting story of another Floridian, where these cops got called out on a call because a woman had stabbed herself. She stabbed herself 3 times because she said she's tired of living in Trump country. So the Florida woman told the police this. The cops found the 46-year-old woman standing outside her residence on Sunday. According to the police report, she had blood all over her legs, hands, and face. And when they asked her what's wrong, the woman lifted her shirt to reveal 3 stab wounds on her stomach that were still bleeding. And then she told the patrolman that she had stabbed herself because she does not want to live in Trump country. Did it ever occur to her that she could move?
Yeah, what happened to all those people that said that they're just going to move out of the country, move to Canada when Trump got elected? They never left. I wanted them to leave. I wanted them to get out of here, but they never did.
Yeah.
They're still here bothering me, taking up my tax money for dumb projects.
Now, to be honest, the report states that this woman has tried to hurt herself before, so she's obviously has some mental...
She's obviously liberal.
I'm not going to go there.
She's got mental issues. She's liberal, right? I mean...
Not all liberals...
No, of course. Not all liberals are mentally unhinged. Or unglued, or whatever they call Trump, but I'm going to say a whole lot of them are. You just push one button about something you don't like, bam, they will blow up on you, and it's Trump's fault, and you're a racist. It will go 0 to 85 that quick.
Yeah, I get it, but what I don't get is why somebody would hurt themselves over that. If you live in Florida voted for Trump in the last election, why the heck would you stab yourself? I can't wrap my head around that. This is obviously mental illness. But
don't they have free healthcare or like free hospitals or something down there?
What,
she must be watching that New Amsterdam show too much where it's a hospital that's free and she thought it was in Florida. So
every state has the same type of laws that allow people to go to emergency rooms for free.
No, you have to pay the bill when you're gone.
Nope. They have to treat you whether or not you can pay or not. So,
but then you just walk around with debt the rest of your life.
Well, there is that. So with Father's Day is coming up next Sunday, and I ran across a story that is the dad of the year in my book. So there's this young lady who is 17, and she got attacked on a North Carolina beach. She ended up having to have her leg amputated, and she's lost some fingers on one of her hands. But to save her life, the shark's biting the teenager's leg off, and the father went up to the shark while it's chewing on his daughter and punched the shark in the face to get him to... Yeah. So I just want to give this guy kudos and say you're the father of the year, because you're going up... I mean, I can't even imagine to see a shark chewing on your 17-year-old daughter, and my first inclination would be to try to pull her out, but even knowing that there's no way, the way a shark's teeth are, that you could ever pull your kid away from the shark. So this took a lot of guts for a guy just to go up and start punching a shark in the face till it went away and stopped chewing on his daughter. I just think this is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of what would my first inclination be other than punching in its nose. Because, that's what everyone says. You hit a shark in the nose, it'll go away. I think one of my two things I would do is I would just start punching it in its eye. Because it seems vulnerable. Or the other one is either I'd kick or I'd just start grabbing its gills and just ripping at them. I don't know if that would actually do anything. I'm imagining it would. Because, heck, if it took my daughter's leg, at least it ain't going to make it far in the water before it just dies. So...
Well, he punched it 5 times. That's what he says.
Whack.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I just think it's amazing. It took a lot of guts. And that had to be a really scary situation for him to see his daughter.
Good job, man.
Now, we come to the next thing, which is out of Baltimore. And the new Baltimore mayor suggests having boxing bouts to settle street fights.
Yep.
Now, this could be...
Totally for it.
Kind of interesting. Now, when I was your age, that's when breakdancing was coming around. And part of the impetus for breakdancing was to get street gangs to stop shooting each other and fighting. And they would have these dance-offs using breakdancing to kind of settle their disputes. So kind of a non-violent kind of thing. Little of that gets played off in a Michael Jackson, the Beat It video. They kind of are going back and forth, and that's kind of a play off of that. And, of course, there's a lot of breakdancing movies from the late 80s, early 90s where they had a lot of that. So this is kind of an interesting concept. I can't say I disagree with it. I mean, I would like to see it fleshed out. But the mayor... I know you're all for public executions again and things like that. So this is kind of that thing like, if they really want to settle their fights, we can have them down at the Civic Center, put a boxing ring up and let them go and box it out with these kind of things. The best man win and the beef should be over. Those are some kinds of things I'm talking about and hoping that we can get these people to put these guns down. So if it's, I'm thinking in my usual thought about government, somewhere
they think they're going to make money from selling tickets to it or something.
Maybe, I don't know. But people like you would probably pay to see it.
Oh heck yeah, I would. I would not do it the way they're doing it. If you're looking for that kind of stuff, you want incentives for boxing rings in those neighborhoods, which first off is a dying sport that is an American classic that I think needs to survive. I think it's, whatever, it's another point about it. But yeah, you want to make incentives so that they build those in those neighborhoods. And then you get to the point where you have a bunch of guys that are devoted to that place. And they will go in there and practice every day. And they will respect the rules. It will become somewhat how the military gives you structure, that boxing will give you structure. You don't use your legs. You don't do this. You don't do that. You do this, this, and this. And it gives them structure to that point where they will respect that place and keep it up.
But traditional boxing is not what people watch anymore. They're watching.
They don't. It's not even about watching it. No one cares about watching it.
No. I'm saying probably all these kids that would be in the boxing ring are all watching MMA.
Yeah.
They're going to go at it that way. They're not going to.
Well, that's where it's going to come down. Is where look, they just showed. The freaking boxer blew McGregor, wasn't it? McGregor lost to the boxer guy, if I remember right. But yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. They're going about it wrong. Like if I was mayor, I'd look at it as I would give you tax incentives to open up in certain neighborhoods and like really work with the youth. And, if you can show progress and I can like literally see like the crime rate, broken window policy, whatever, just see like number of ER calls, cop calls, whatever, anything go down the neighborhood because your presence there is whatever, just taking that aggression out of the kids, then yeah, you would get huge tax incentives to be there.
Yeah. I think in general, I think the mayor was a little bit saying this in jest. But Baltimore is one of the most violent cities in the United States, and it's not far behind Chicago for people getting shot. And if it's something that keeps people away from shooting each other, maybe it's not all a bad thing.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
So the next story is one that's after your heart. It's your Tesla. So Tesla's getting sued after a 2-year-old accidentally crashes a Model 10.
Model X.
Model X. I did that on purpose just to get your goat. The Model 10 into his pregnant mom. Say it again. Model X. So this family has filed a product liability lawsuit against Tesla. This woman was pinned against her garage when her 2-year-old son climbed into the park Model X and accidentally drove it into her last December. According to the lawsuit, she was 8 months pregnant at the time of the incident, which resulted in a lot of broken bones and led to a premature delivery of her second child. They'd only had the car for about a week. She left the Model X parked in the driveway outside of her garage, and its powered Falcon Wing rear doors opened as she and her son went into their home. So nobody was around the car. The doors just opened. The boy ran back into the car and climbed into the front seat, and she went to go get him. And then Harcourt recalls passing out in front of the car when it accelerated towards her with the rear doors still open, pushed her through the garage, and held her against the back wall until neighbors arrived and were able to move the car away. The Model X does not have a start button and is active when the key fob is within range. So basically, out of nowhere, the back doors open up on this thing. The kid crawls inside. When he gets inside, he's able to push on the gas and it drives forward because that's the way the car's wired.
Look, I think this story is complete bullcrap. Okay? Well, so first off, for those doors to open, there are 3 ways for them to open if this is a brand new. It doesn't say what does it say what year he picked it up? He took order.
I don't know, but they got it last December, 2018.
2018, so it's a new one.
Mm-hmm.
So if they bought that, then they might have bought the brand new key fobs. So the newer key fobs are like a model of the car in your hand, and wherever you like double tap on that model of car, the front opens, the trunk opens, the wing doors open, whatever.
Just like most other vehicles.
It's a model of the car. It's just a solid model of the car. It's all black. It's like glossy. Wherever you double tap on that model, doors open or whatever. It's not buttons or anything. It's just a little model of the car you have in your hand. Then there's a Tesla card you put in your wallet, and you put that up towards the driver's side door, and that unlocks the door. So when you get in, you put that card down into the console, you set it there, it magnetically holds it, and while that card is there, the car is mobile, or you have it through your phone. But even when you use it through your phone, when you get into that car, you have to move the stock shift a certain way, and then you double tap on the brakes, and then you press the accelerator, and you can go. Right? But there's a certain order of doing things that where the doors just opened, and then he just ran and got... I think that's total bullcrap. They left the doors open because they were getting groceries or something. And then the kid just crawled through the back and then got in the front seat and then just drove the car super quick. Because there's no way... if you were a parent and you saw me just jump into the front seat of the car and you see me doing stuff, whether you hear the car turn on or whatever, would you just stand in front of the car? No.
Well, she was on her way to get the kid out of the car.
But that wouldn't make sense. If she was on her way to go get the kid out of the car, how is it that she was pushed through the closed garage door all the way through the garage to the back wall? That is what it says. So they were going in through the front door. So she was coming from the left or to the right to that kid that was climbing into the car. Well, so she would have stepped right in front of the car parked in the driveway. Why would you do that? I think she tried to do... It just wouldn't make sense any way you put it.
At some point, the kid hit the brake pedal, which caused the doors to shut, or the driver's door to shut. And then, because of that, he was able to shift it into drive. That's what the black box on the Tesla shows. I think it's a little fishy myself.
It's totally fishy, because even if, You can't. They have a summons feature where you can actually move the Tesla from your phone and everything back and forward, which is kind of a weird thing to watch.
That's very James Bondish.
Yeah, and you can actually summon it. It will find its way through a parking lot to come to you. But if something's moving or it sees something in front of it, it won't go near it. It stops in front of it. So if she was staying in front of it, the Tesla would have stopped. If she tried to summon it and for it to come towards her, it just...
Well, the black box on the Tesla says somebody shifted it into drive.
Right. I don't think it was the kid.
And I don't know what the shifter looks like inside.
It's like a turn signal. It's like what that behind the wheel. So toot. Or I'm saying toot. Double tap down is autopilot enables, and then you just like pull it towards you. We'll put it in drive, and then you push it back or whatever.
So it doesn't have like in a standard automatic transmission. You've got a button you press to pull it back and to get it out of park into drive. So Tesla doesn't have that.
No, but it's just like any other manufacturer. They have a stock shift. Most manufacturers now don't even have it. It's just the knob, you just spin it. Dink.
Yeah, but you still have to have your foot pressed on the brake to be able to shift.
Yeah, you still have to have your foot pressed on the brake. You double tap to turn the vehicle on, and then you hold.
So what you're saying is the kid would have had to have his foot on the brake and then be playing with the levers.
The kid would have had to gotten into the car.
That's when he hit
holding the wheel, because they have wheel sensors. So holding the wheel, double tap on the brake to turn the vehicle on, so the battery to engage and everything to turn on, and then hold the brake down and then put it into gear. So like pull it for you. I think it's twice for you towards you, and it'll put it into gear, and then move over and shift it to go completely straight through the garage, hit his mother, and pin her against the back wall. And it said it was there for a really long time.
Not really long time.
Well, until the neighbors came home. Yeah. Which is, again, another fishy thing, because when Teslas get in accidents, they record what happens to them.
Well, this recorded it.
I mean on camera.
Oh, okay.
They all do that, especially a new one. Like, they also now have a new feature where if it senses anything next to it, the cameras automatically engage. Mm-hmm. Then you can go on YouTube and watch it. There's hours of content where people just go up to Teslas and just scrape them because it's a Tesla. But the Tesla records the whole thing because it's got cameras all over the thing. So, yeah, I think it's total bullcrap. I think it's really fishy. And they're just skewing some of that data for whatever reason. I don't know why they would, but I don't think it's true.
Yeah, it sounds fishy to me, but it'll be interesting to see how that lawsuit.
Oh, they're just going to pay it out.
So this is one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about this week, because it's a European thing. This is the Dutch rape victim who's 17 who requested to be euthanized
because she was raped.
She wrote a book about her struggles, but she was assisted by a clinic to end her life. Now, this in Dutch law in the Netherlands, this has been legal since 2002. It's starting to become a thing in the United States, especially in the Northwest. She was molested when she was 11 and 12, and then two men, she says, raped her when she was 14. I have a real problem with this because, especially with teenagers, their minds aren't completely formed yet. But she said she's been fighting depression for years and felt like she had never been alive, but was just surviving. And so to me, this is evidence of mental trauma, and she needed more counseling and things like that. But I have a real problem with a country that allows this, especially for teenagers. I don't think, I'm pro-life all the way across the board. I don't, in most cases, don't agree with abortion, but I also don't agree in assisted suicide for people who are who are going to die because of some disease, or if you're just old and you don't want to live anymore. I really don't agree with those kind of decisions. And I don't think the state should be allowing them personally. Pope Francis did tweet about this. He says euthanasia and assisted suicide are a defeat for all. We are called upon to never abandon those who are suffering, never giving up, but caring and loving to restore hope. And I think that's the case here, that I wish somebody would have been in this young lady's life to give her a sense of hope. Certainly that could have came through some sort of sense of religion and helping her understand that even in the worst of circumstances, God can still take those circumstances and utilize them in a way that she could have lived a long, healthy life and actually helped other people, because she knows what it's like to go through these circumstances, and she could have helped other young women find a sense of hope too. So this really just troubles me, but you're a young man, you're the bearded 20-something man-child, and I want to know kind of what you're thinking about.
I think she was counseled into doing this. Look, you remember when I was like 16, which really wasn't that long ago, but I'm definitely a drastically different person now from when I was 16. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of dumb stuff, and a lot of dumb things happened to me personally that pushed me to a lot of dark places like this, even before I was 16.
Yeah.
I contemplated suicide a whole lot. It's another one of those reasons where I don't like being by really tall buildings and things like that at the edge, because for me, I can just step off, and I wouldn't think twice about it. So it's really hard for me to be around those kind of things. But I've gone through counseling. I've done all this kind of stuff to come to grips with the way I feel, because the way I feel doesn't necessarily dictate who I am as a person. They're just emotions. Now, I urge for the feeling of emotions because I lack emotions, but I'm just hyper-focused. But like for this, I think that was wrong. I understand she's so much pain and grief, but I agree with you about she could have helped so much more. Hopefully God's grace will cover that. But at the same time, I think she was just counseled into, oh, you've gone so much trouble in your life. It must have been so difficult to do this. Just kill yourself.
Is that your...
Whatever. But, this is the meme that I've done forever my whole life. Just kill yourself. That's a joke, and it's funny, but in this kind of situation...
Yeah, it's not funny in this situation.
Well, no, in this situation is what it is. It's just like people took that from a joke to just go kill yourself. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
and they just did it.
Yeah.
And they don't think twice about it.
That's terrible.
Yeah, well, maybe she thinks she'll be reincarnated as a fart or something.
As a what?
Fart. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
You can be reincarnated into anything.
You've had a terrible day, haven't you?
It's been very long.
Yeah.
It's been a very long day.
So I got a couple, just to round up our time together, couple kind of interesting stories. There's an American woman, 21, becomes the youngest person to visit every country in the world. And this happened
How rich are her parents?
Well, I have no idea.
Look, she's 21. She's taking these cool photos wearing obviously what somewhat looks expensive clothing and is a very expensive photo.
She's wearing a bikini top and shorts.
Dude, I'm just saying what she's wearing costs money. But I'm just saying, someone's got money throwing stuff somewhere for her to travel the world by the time she's 21.
Well, regardless, I think it's kind of a...
It's a neat idea.
Yeah. She says, not many times in life does everything that you've worked towards for years culminate in a single moment. And I think this is kind of an interesting thing. She's got all of this stuff. Of course, she has an Instagram account. By her 18th birthday, she had traveled to 72 nations, putting her that much closer to breaking the world record. In October 16, she realized that she could see the 128 or 124 remaining nations on her list to set the official record, and she got moving. And she has 44,000 Instagram followers who are cheering her along. And I think this is kind of a cool thing. It is something that when I was 21, it wouldn't even come into my realm of possibilities. But in this day and age, with the cost of air travel being so cheap and the ways to get around the world, I just think it's kind of a cool thing. It's probably something that would have been really hard to do when I was 21, 30 years ago. But now it's something that people can do, and I applaud her for it.
Yeah, debt's just a number. There's some dude.
I'm supposed to be the cynical one. You're making all the cynical comments.
Today's been long, man. There's this dude that just traveled to every one of the national parks in the United States. Like Alaska and Hawaii too, and Puerto Rico, I think. That'd be really cool to do. I don't know how to do it though. That's a lot of travel. You know, if I could save up enough money to have like a solid year where, you know, I get a job in a town for like a week or two just so, you know, some Mickey D's and they just pay me cash. I don't know. I think you could do it. Like if you're just living in like a truck you got, like a Suburban, you go to like, I go to Omaha or something and then I just get a job at some place paying me like $10 an hour. I work there for like a couple weeks till I get like my first paycheck or something. And then I take that paycheck, cash it in, and then I'm off to the next place. And then when it gets to that point where, you know, I automatically time it to where I just need to go get a quick job or do something, or maybe my employer, I don't know, whatever. I don't know. Work it out somehow. I'm sure you could work it out to do it, but that'd be really cool as to travel to every national park. Anyway, let's talk about the
round out our
not
time.
British city anymore.
Yeah, well, there's these developers who have this plan to put a 360-degree infinity pool on top of a building.
In London.
In the middle of London, it'll be a 600,000-liter pool on top of a 55-story building. The interesting thing here, because we're looking at the picture here, and you can look it up online. This is on the CNN style website. There's no entrance to this pool. Do you see one? Their concept is to use a rotating spiral staircase to get into the pool. It'll rotate and you just kind of get on it and it'll rotate you into the pool. So it'll constantly be moving to get people into the pool. And that's just a really interesting concept to me.
I think this would be a great idea in LA or like, I don't know, Florida, Texas.
Oh.
But in London, you're going to have a giant pool at the top in London.
But they're going to heat it.
Okay, I was going to say, it's got to be heated because that is not like
the
Chipper, Choy, Cheerios, whatever kind of weather.
Yeah, the pool, the story says the pool will also be fitted with a built-in anemometer to monitor wind speed and will be linked to a computer-controlled building management system that will regulate the pool's temperature and ensure the water doesn't spill onto the streets below. The water will be heated using waste energy from the building's air conditioning system. And so this is going to be on top of a 5-star hotel, and they're hoping to start construction in 2020 if all of the permits in London and stuff get settled.
You know what they're going to have to do if someone takes a deuce in that pool?
Oh, I don't...
You know how they're going to drain all of that water, and then they got to get the water up there?
First off, you don't take a deuce, you leave it.
It's London. They do things differently.
If you're taking things, you've got problems.
Oh, man, I'm just thinking, what about the birds pooping in it?
Well, there's a whole lot going on there, isn't there?
Oh, man, I don't want
your mind's going into some bad places today.
It's been so long, and I don't want. I got an exam tomorrow I don't want to do in stats. Man, I'm done. I'm going to quit life. Thanks. It's been a great podcast, guys. I'm quitting the podcast. I'm quitting my job. I'm quitting my car.
Until tomorrow.
Yeah, then I'll wake up and then we'll have to do everything again.
Yeah.
But we won't have to do this again until next week, and next week is Father's Day.
We'll be broadcasting from the basement again next week. I'm the old guy.
And I'm the man-child.
Don't forget to cross your streams with others and tell them about the Twinkie. Until next week, don't fall up and down elevator, and remember...
If I don't make it back, you made me come here.